Coming up on USL Pro Weekly, Arizona United claims its first win and prepares to welcome the LA Galaxy 2 this weekend. What progression did we see in Michael Della Russo's side? The Rochester Rhinos picked up their first win and now are set for their home opener. We talk with Bob Lilley about his return to Rochester. Sacramento Republic FC has been preparing for more than a year for this Saturday night. We talk with Warren Smith about his club's home opener. All of this and much more on the latest USL Pro Weekly. Welcome in to the latest edition of USL Pro Weekly. My name's Nicholas Murray. Very pleased to be joined again this week by David Wagner. Welcome, David.
Thanks for having me, Nicholas.
And also by Jake Edwards. How are you, Jake? How was your weekend?
I'm doing well, thank you.
You had a quick weekend in Charleston, I heard.
A wet weekend in Charleston.
A wet weekend in Charleston. Definitely wet weekend in Charleston. But we'll get to that in a little bit because we've got a lot to get to this week. We've got a big schedule coming up this weekend. But we've got some history this week with Arizona United claiming its first victory in USL Pro, a 2-1 win against Sacramento Republic FC. Brandon Swartzendruber scored the first goal in club history. Jonathan Tops scored the first game-winning goal in club history. There was definitely progression here from Game 1 to Game 2 for Arizona. What was the biggest thing that you guys saw in their performance against Republic FC?
I think for me, Dave will see it perhaps differently, but for me, I think overall play was a real step up in confidence and belief. They looked pretty good at times in the first game, but this game, they looked really against a strong Sacramento side. So to bounce back from that result, to take these guys on, and they played some great football at times, scored some nice goals. Goals were taken well. Lovely ball in for the first goal, and a lovely crossfield pass for the first goal. Took it very well. Great to see him score the first goal in the club history, and great to see what it means to them to get the win. To score the winning goal, and the lads, Jonathan's jumping into the LFR supporters who are going absolutely crazy. Fantastic to see that passion, it was just great to see them get off the mark with a few points on the board.
I think for me, they just look more decisive going forward. They were much more organized. When you go back and look, they had essentially a week and a half of training, so you got an extra week of training on your belt, got another game experience, getting a little bit familiar with your teammates, more familiar with surroundings. They've put together a good group of guys here, but just going forward, they just looked a lot more organized. They were also organized in the back. Obviously, they got cut out a little early, but come back, especially bounce back after missing a penalty kick like that and get that late goal. You can't sugarcoat it too much because they were up a man. So, we'll see what happens this week when, they presumably have 90 minutes, 11 on 11 against a very strong side, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Well, I want to ask you guys, how much of a role do you think Michael Della Russo is playing in this? Because obviously they brought him in from the University of Maryland. He's obviously had a very good professional career before that. It really seems as though he is being able to translate what he wants to do on the field through Matt Castle, who had that assist on the opening goal. And everything seems to flow through that. But they're playing the type of soccer that you would typically think this is a Maryland team. This is a team that's keeping the ball well, it's knocking the ball around on the ground, and it's really passing nicely. There definitely seems to be that kind of Terrapin influence, as it were, on the way that Della Russo is leading this squad.
I think one of Michael's initial comments is, I was out in Arizona when they were going through the process of hiring him, and they were looking for, the key phrase that they kept saying over and over again when they were talking about the players that they wanted to bring in and the type of coach they wanted was a high character guy, somebody that was going to be, responsible and, come out and, have the right attitudes towards the community, but also play an exciting brand of soccer. And Michael, I think they found that. When you talk to Michael about his coaching philosophy, obviously he's taken something from what he had in Maryland, and there's a lot of Maryland hallmarks in it. But he said he's, really taken pieces from all the places he's been. Whether it's the different coaches he's been under, whether it's been in MLS or college or anything like that, taken a little piece of that and brought it into what he, considers his style, which is still what you talked about, an attacking, possession-based style. So you bring all those elements in and put them out on the field, and I think he's impressed upon these guys already from day one that this is how we're going to play soccer, and we're going to do it in an attractive fashion. And so I think we're going to see this team continue to develop and flourish throughout the year. There's going to be bumps along the way, as there's going to be for any new group of guys, any expansion team, but it definitely has a lot of potential there.
Now, as you mentioned, David, they are going to get a pretty good test this Friday. The LA Galaxy 2 come in for their first road game of the season, as it will be, off a 3-1 win against the Orange County Blues last Saturday night. That moved the Galaxy back to the top of the standings at the end of the week, and it was definitely a game of two halves, I thought, because Orange County came out brightly. Giovanni Santana scores the first goal, his first professional goal in the 8th minute, and it really didn't seem as though the Galaxy 2 got on track until early in the second half, where Charlie Rugg capitalizes on a good opportunity, and suddenly they're off and running.
Yeah, they came out like a house on fire, OC, and they really stunned the Galaxy, and rightly so. Looked like a top team in the first half. They were on top of them, but they conceded one, and once the second one in, the confidence of the Galaxy players, you could see really lifted them, and it sort of looked like one outcome at the end of that. It's a tough test to go to Arizona, who is a team on the up. And the Galaxy are top of the league, as you said, full of confidence, scoring goals, playing nice football. They're going to be a very hard team to beat, and it'll be a test for those players, because they're professional players. They know what they're doing, but it will be a test as they start to travel more and more in the USL Pro and go to places like Arizona and go to the East Coast as well, and to see how they handle themselves on those away trips.
Yeah, the guy that I thought was really impressive, and the guy that maybe turned the tide most, I thought, in the second half, was Jack McBean. He'd been away. He'd been away with the Galaxy's academy team playing at the Dallas Cup, and he came on for the last half hour on Saturday night, and 2 excellent assists. And the way that he's able to hold up possession and kind of provide a focal point for the team, I thought that's what they were missing in the loss to Sacramento the previous week, because it was unavailable for that. He comes back, he provides that size, that strength, but also the really good touch on the ball as well. Mm-hmm. And that was obviously set up Hoffman, set up Courtois for the second and third goals.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this on the weekend review yesterday, and that the Galaxy really have a wealth of attacking options. Obviously, just right on the team there, you have a guy about Rugg and Hoffman and McBean, a lot of guys that can score goals, and not just score them, but score some nice creative goals, like make goals happen, and then also finish, some top quality finishers there. And then you combine in the fact that they can bring in an odd player from the first team as well, yeah. and that just ups the talent level as well. You had Robbie Rogers there this week again, so you bring down some of these other quality elements to complement some of the players that are on Galaxy 2, and you have a really potent offense. So going forward, and for all these games, it's just going to be fantastic, just because they have, not all of these guys are going to start every game. You can't start 4 or 5 forwards, but when you have a couple of these really good attackers coming off the bench, it's a fantastic option you could have in the second half, and they really needed it the other day. I mean, Orange County played a good first half. They came in the second half, and like all good teams do, they adjusted and came back and scored the goals to get the win. Now,
it'll be interesting to see if McBean and Oscar Soto are available this weekend for the Galaxy 2, because they, along with Oklahoma City's John Kempin, and who was the fourth? There was one more, Colin Martin, was with the Richmond Kickers on loan from DC United. Those 4 guys all called up to the US U21's training camp that's going on this week, I believe, out in Carson, California. So they may not be available for the game in Arizona, or maybe the Sunday afternoon game in Orange County. Mm-hmm. So that could definitely have an effect. But congratulations to those guys. Definitely delighted to see that the way they're getting the opportunity for playing time in USL Pro. And obviously with Kempin, he has really done very, very well for Oklahoma City so far this season.
Yeah, I think so. I think going back to last year, Kempin could have been the starter all the way through for Orlando City. He eventually won the first string job, had on it for a while, and then he got injured, and then that was sort of the end to him. But had he kept going and not been injured in that fashion, he might have been one of the guys lifting the trophy at the end of the season for Orlando City.
Very true.
Yeah, no, it's nice they've all been called up and recognised for their for what they've been doing so far. I think they've all got really great careers ahead of them, and I'm glad to see them playing for a spell in USL Pro.
Now, other results over the weekend, and I think the result that maybe stood out the most was the Dayton Dutch Lions going into Harrisburg, taking a 1-0 victory in the City Islanders home opener. Another guy come down on loan, Aaron Schoenfeld for Dayton from the Columbus Crew. Again, highly influential, very, very strong attacker, earned himself a penalty, took it very well. But there were other facets to this game for Schoenfeld. He had an excellent knockdown that Joel Delas was kicking himself over not finishing off early in the game. That guy has really made a massive impact for Dayton in these first 3-4 games of the season.
Yeah,
and now they're up to 7 points. They're up to third place in the standings.
I know, they've gone from a tough opening loss, 3-0, to, top half of the table, knocking on the door of some of the teams at the top now. So, they've done really well to turn things around. And Schoenfeld's been a big part of that. He's a nice player to watch. I like him. He's a big lad. He holds it up well. He's got a nice touch. He's influential on the game, and he gives them that focal point to get to get out of trouble. And they're playing a good style of football. He took his penalty well, and as you said, they went there. They spoiled the party against what is a well organised Harrisburg team.
Indeed.
Well, you can definitely make an equation between Schoenfeld and I think the way McBean plays for the Galaxy. They're players that feel as though they're in very similar, made from a very similar mold. Yep. As far as Dayton's concerned, though, they've gotten good contributions from some of the other loanies, but they've also gotten some good contributions from the guys that have come back from last season. And in particular, I'm looking at Matt Williams in goal, who was outstanding again. And 5 saves, records another shutout, 2 road shutouts now for their 2 wins. He's a guy that I was being told last week by a couple of people up in Dayton that he was going through some stuff last week, not necessarily fully healthy at all times last year. He definitely seems to be back to where he was, fully fit, and really making the saves that you need to make in order to win games on the road.
Yeah, I agree. We obviously have plenty of great goalkeepers in this league. I got the chance to see Matt's first shutout road victory there in person down in Charlotte, and he definitely had some tough ones and had to stand on his head at times. But he's a fantastic keeper. He's going to keep him in it all the time. Obviously, Dayton, as we saw last year, can be very much a roller coaster team where they can go out and they can post 3 goals on you, and all of a sudden they get pegged back for 5. So, obviously one of the goals for the team this year is going to be minimizing those types of circumstances where you have those roller coaster games. But when you have an attacking style team, a lot of times, you can leave yourself the vulnerabilities in the back, and having that goalkeeper there that can make those big saves is helpful, and that's something that Matt Williams has already showed this year that he's very capable of doing.
I will say this, Matt has obviously made some very good saves, but it definitely seems as though the back 4, and particularly Harada playing right in front of them, seem very, very cohesive at this point. You're always going to give up chances. There's not a game in the world where you're not going to go through and your goalkeeper isn't going to have to make saves for you. But I think they've done a very good job staying compact, staying organised, and reducing the number of passing lanes to where teams are generally having to try and put crosses into the penalty area that then a guy like Brock Granger or Williams himself are going to be able to deal with in the air.
Yeah, and I think a large part of that organisation is down to Sid. Sid, the coach, is doing a fantastic job organising the back 4, and Harada's playing a really important role in front of them. So, all credit to Matt Williams in goal. And you don't win championships without a top goalkeeper keeping those clean sheets in those difficult away games. We saw that at Richmond last year. But to a degree, you're as good as the back 4 in front of you as well, and they're working well together so far.
Well, they'll get a really good test this Saturday night. They're back at home, and they welcome a Richmond Kickers side that earned a 2-2 draw against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds on Saturday night. Very much a roller coaster game. Excellent entertainment for the fans that were there at City Stadium and watching online. But it's got to be disappointing, I think, a little bit for the Riverhounds that they were up 2-0. They were in pretty decent control of this game. And then suddenly Kyle Porter comes along, scores an absolutely fabulous goal. And suddenly everything seemed to flow the Kickers' way. They got the equalizer with Matt Delicat. They definitely had a chance. It felt like that they were knocking on the door to grab a winner. Pittsburgh, is this a point gained on the road, or is this 2 points dropped after holding a 2-0 lead?
For me, I think it's points dropped. I think Pittsburgh's going to be pretty disappointed right now that they haven't had that win yet. I mean, at home, you come in, you say you're going to score that many goals, and you're not able to get the victory there is a little disappointing. And then to go on the road being up, with the quality that they have on that side, I mean, just the players from Houston on loan to begin with, they're really stacked, and they have, not to mention all the other guys that they brought back on their own. So, you bring back a guy like Brian Ownby coming back to Richmond, great first half for the team, playing real well, some great goals, but in the second half, they're still not quite there defensively yet for me. They're giving up too many chances and leaving themselves open. So you got to be able to close and finish games. So, it's good that they're scoring goals, but they haven't quite tightened it up in the back yet this year.
Is it strange to think that we're at this point of the season, and Arizona has gotten a win before Harrisburg, Charleston, and Pittsburgh? No one, I don't think, would have predicted that at the start of the season.
No, but it's a function of where the league's going. The teams in the league getting stronger and stronger, and there's some fantastic teams. You just mentioned, you rattled off a number of those teams on the East Coast. It's very tough. There's nobody standing out here running away with it. Of course, on the East Coast anyway, Orlando's having some great results and are up near the top, but. Pittsburgh will certainly feel like they should have had some points, and so have Richmond, and so will Charleston. They've all been scoring goals, but it's I don't know if it's a function of partly of the quality of the opposition and early days in the season, trying to tighten things up at the back and close out the games.
Well, I think Charleston, they drew 1-1 last Friday with the New York Red Bulls reserves, and that was probably a function of the weather more than anything else, because that game, if you got to see the game live, if you didn't, make sure you go and check the highlights out on YouTube, because that was one of the more unique environments as far as I've seen since I've been in USL Pro. I've seen games like this, like from back in the old days, like the 60s and 70s in England, where there would be such an amount of rain on the field. But it was really, really strange, and I think Charleston did well to get a point. I think they might be disappointed that they didn't take a couple of their chances in the first half and get a lead there, because there were definitely some flubs by the Red Bull reserves defense, primarily caused by the conditions.
Yeah, I think overall probably the result was fair, but I know Mike will be disappointed, because quite rightly so. They had a couple of chances where they should have done better with, and some of that was a function of the scary back passes to the keeper, to the Red Bulls keeper with the pitch. But it wasn't too bad, I have to say. I was there. There was a lot of rain. There was only a few sections on the field where it started to puddle. The field held up really well, so they were able to move the ball around pretty comfortably. And there were some good chances. Good goal, and it was good to come back. They were pressing, and it was Charleston did a good job to get the cross in, and the lad finished it in the far post.
And let's not sell New York too short as well. I mean, obviously there was some poor finishing by Charleston in a few occasions, but Ryan Mira had some great saves in that match as well.
Ryan Mira had some great saves. Ian Christensen, coming on as a replacement keeper after Mira was sent off late in the game, actually made a couple of very good saves as well. So it was kind of one of those nights in a way for Charleston, where you've got this midfielder coming on as a replacement keeper, and we all know what fun that can be. But he does come through, makes a couple of saves where Charleston's really pushing hard in those last 10 minutes to try and grab a winner, and he shows up and he earns a point for the Red Bulls reserves in the MLS Reserve League.
Yeah, I think part of that, though, is that maybe it was a bit of youth, or I'm not sure what, but there's a part of that where you've got a field player in the goal, and then even he gets taken off with an injury. They have a collision, he gets stretched off. So you now have a second keeper coming in, field player, a third keeper coming in. But at that point, when the keeper goes off and you've got a field player in, for me, you've got to get the ball in the box. You've just got to get a ball on that keeper. I mean, he made one decent save, to be fair to him, but I think Charleston's players just didn't take advantage of that. For me, watching that, I think that if and I know Mike was. Would have said the same thing there. They needed to get that ball on that keeper and get the centre forward on top of him and see how he handled it.
Force the issue.
They still tried to play the ball around without, testing the keeper.
Sure. Well, the last game of the weekend, if you want to count Monday, we don't, and so effectively the first game of week 6 of the schedule was on Monday afternoon, and it was the first win of the season for the Rochester Rhinos. This was notable for a couple of reasons. Obviously, it's a good win for them on the road against the Chicago Fire Reserves ahead of their home opener this Sunday against Charleston. But also notable, Min Vu, a guy that was at the USL Pro Combine this year, scores his first professional goal. John McCarthy, his first professional start after playing very well, I believe, for LaSalle in college and also for Reading United and the Ocean City Nor'easters in the PDL, gets his first professional shutout. A lot of positive things to be taken away from this result for the Rhinos.
Yeah, what a classy finish by Vu yesterday. So calm, that was like a Berbatov or Ibrahimovic kind of finish where he just flicked it up and over, and so calm on the ball. That was fantastic. But good win for the Rhinos. I mean, someone on Twitter had a question or posed a question yesterday. Would you call this a must-win game for the Rhinos at this point in the season? And it's always it's a game in April. It's tough to say it's a must-win, but I think it's a really, really important win. I don't think that you can undersell that statement a little too much, because given the season that the Rhinos had last year, they've already had some tough matches this season. I think it was almost at that point where it was a game they really needed to come in and get a win. You build up, you have your home opener this weekend on Sunday. Definitely a situation where they needed to get 3 points just to get something positive going for that squad early in the year. And it was a really good feel-good match. It was the game you could walk away from. You're on the road, you're in an MLS venue, and you can walk away from them and say, we got 3 points, and we're headed in the right direction.
There was definitely a feeling last year with the Rhinos that, especially after they got out to the slow start, that the hole that they dug themselves was, one, a bit too big for them to dig themselves out of, but two, it felt as though when things would go wrong, they did go wrong.
Yes.
And they could go wrong, they did go wrong.
Whether it's a call or a goal, or there was a lot of free plays.
When you saw them give up that late goal against Dayton for the 1-1 draw a couple of weeks ago, it was like me,
here we go
okay,
again.
is this happening for the Rhinos again? For them to come out and get a positive win, got to wonder a little bit about the Fire's management techniques there, playing the last 25 minutes with 10 men voluntarily for some reason. But that being said, positive win, positive feeling in that Rhinos locker room with a very young group of players ahead of the Battery coming to town on Sunday.
Yeah, you're right. When you're at the bottom of the league, everything goes against you, and when you're at the top, you get all the luck. It's just the way. It's the weird thing about football. But could it have gone that way? Perhaps. But they showed great character, as Dave said, in an MLS venue, and it's a very young side. It was a big test for them, and they came through with flying colours. A lot of firsts for some of those young players, including the goal. So, Bob's got a challenge on his hand. He's got a young side. He needs to forget about what's happened last year. He needs to build on that. He's got a new group of players to mould, and he will do. I think this. I think it was a must-win. I think all these games are must-wins, certainly not in the season, because you want to build that momentum, and you don't want to get left behind, and so that was an important win for them.
What's the phrase? You can't win the championship in the first month of the season.
That's right.
You can certainly play yourself out of contention.
Yeah, that's right. So you got to keep in touch and distance of the group. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, to talk a little bit more about that and the young squad he's assembled for this season in his return to the Rhinos, we got the chance to talk with Bob Lilley, and that interview will be coming up just after this break. Well, I'm very pleased to be joined now by the head coach of the Rochester Rhinos, Bob Lilley. Bob, thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Hi, Nick. It's great being here.
Well, first of all, congratulations. Monday, first win of the season against the Chicago Fire Reserves. I'm sure ahead of the home opener, it was good to get that first win under your belts.
Yeah, I think it was an important game for us, especially with a really young team, just to build some confidence. And I think we're showing potential. Obviously, it's early in the season, but the results help move you forward.
You obviously mentioned the youth in your team. There was a really big turnover of the roster this off-season. You only have maybe 2 or 3 significant players from last season, and Tyler Rosenlund, Lance Rosenbaum, and J.C. Banks coming back. Talk a little bit about the youth of the squad, because there were some guys yesterday, and Min Vu in particular, that really stood out.
Yeah, I think we have some young, exciting players. They're getting used to the level of the league. Obviously, there's a lot of quality teams, and I can say comfortably that the league is much stronger than what I remember just a few years ago. I was here, and 2010 and 2011, and in this short time, I feel like the league has really jumped forward and it's deeper. We obviously tried to do combines and scout as many players as possible when we turned the roster over, and we went primarily young, and some of these guys I think have a bright future. They're getting the experience, they're getting the games now, and Minvu's certainly one of them that has shown early in the season that he's gonna be a big asset for our club, and he was a player that we actually found down at the USL Combine. So you guys had him in the USL Combine, and we were able to scout him there.
Well, that was I remember seeing him there, and obviously I remember hearing the conversations that you were having with him at that time. There were other guys that have come through, though, like Alex Dixon, your goalkeeper yesterday, John McCarthy coming through in his first pro start, earns the shutout. So there definitely seems to be a lot of potential and a lot of room for growth over the course of this season for a lot of guys.
Yeah, I'm optimistic. We've tried to although it's young, we've tried to build a deep squad, and we had 4 new starters in the lineup yesterday. A lot of guys have gotten starts already, so hopefully that'll help us if we run into some injury issues or when you play back to back. And there's healthy competition in the group for playing time or even to get into the 18. So we're hoping that's going to kind of set a good standard for players, to be sharp, to train well, when they get their chances, make the most of them.
You mentioned, obviously, this is your second stint with the Rhinos. When the call came from Pat Erkely and Dave Sislinski to see if you would be interested in coaching the squad again, what made your decision to come back? Was there any one particular thing, or was it just the right time to jump back into the professional coaching ranks?
Yeah, I think I missed it the 2 years I was away, but also, at that time when I stepped aside, I was, for me, I was a bit burned out. I had been in Canada for a number of years and came back right away and coached indoors in Detroit, and then, went home for a bit, and then I got the call from Rochester, and we had 2 successful years here, and but I wanted to get back closer to home, and that obviously I enjoyed the 2 years and worked with younger players and with a very strong youth club called PA Classics, and that was certainly enjoyable. It's not the same environment, and I missed the pro environment, and I know the league has taken many steps forward and grown, and the quality of play has gone up and up each year. So, it's exciting to come back and get a chance to hopefully bring Rochester back to the top of the table.
Well, obviously, as you mentioned, Rochester really had its first really down season last year. It missed the playoffs for the first time. When you went into this off-season with Pat and the guys up there, what was the biggest plan of action? What were the types of players that you were looking for to kind of re-establish the Rhinos and establish the style of play that you has traditionally succeeded in Rochester?
Well, I think, first of all, I thought, 2 years ago, obviously, Rochester got off to a great start and had a strong season. They fell off a bit last year early, and once that hole was dug, there was injuries, and it just seemed the momentum was, they weren't able to turn that momentum around, and so, obviously we looked at the roster. It was an older team, a lot of injuries. We felt like we had to get younger. We wanted to be a little bit more mobile. We thought, we're going to have a little bit more mobility as a team, to compete game in and game out in this league. So obviously we looked at those types of players. I think we have some very good technical, attacking pieces that, they definitely have quality going forward. We're still trying to, tactically get the group acclimated where they're all playing, they're all new to each other. So you have to get them on the same page tactically in terms of how we're going to defend, how we're going to possess the ball, what style we're going to play, what system we're going to play. So, that learning process has been going on through training camp and is still going on now. Hopefully, as we go through the season, we're going to have a clearer picture and a better understanding, throughout the team in terms of how we play and how each individual plays. But that's going to be a growing, learning process. But I think they're making good strides, and, where we have a very difficult schedule. 10 of our first 14 are on the road, and some tough home games here early in the season. So, we have our work cut out for us, but I do think there's a lot of potential with this group.
You guys get Charleston on Sunday for the home opener. Obviously a very good Battery team that somehow has yet to win a game this season. But for you personally, what's it going to mean to be back on the sidelines at Salem Stadium?
Well, I'm excited to get back at it at home. Obviously, that's why I came back. And here, I think we've always had good fan support, and we have a nice stadium. We have a good atmosphere. Hopefully we're going to give the fans more to cheer about this year than maybe last year. But it's very competitive, and that's the challenge is, you've got to get better week to week and throughout the season. And, each year, as I said, the league gets better. So, for me, it's a huge challenge. And I've been in some different cities where, I've rebuilt teams, or, even Hershey was an expansion team, and I enjoy putting a team together, from scratch. I'm eager to see where this group can go, but I think, we've collected a pretty good roster and a pretty deep roster. They're young, so we're going to take some lumps along the way, and it's going to be difficult for us, but I think trying to make the playoffs is a realistic goal for this group, and certainly that's our target for this year is to try and get back in the mix at playoff time and see how far we can take it.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Best of luck this Sunday in your home opener, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks, Nicholas.
As we mentioned, Rochester hosts Charleston in its home opener, the 19th home opener in Rochester Rhinos history this Sunday. Should be a very good test for the Rhinos defense with the firepower that we've seen from the Battery. Hopefully won't be quite as rainy. I know they've got a really great Rochester Soccer Hall of Fame ceremony lined up with Abby Wambach coming in to be honored, and Brian Bliss, the former U.S. international and current Chicago Fire assistant coach and academy director. So a lot of good stuff on hand for the home opener for the Rhinos this Sunday. A guy I'm looking at for this game is a guy like Kyle Hoffer, who is going to have a big game. He was on the Battery side 2 years ago when they won the championship. He's kind of the experienced guy at the center of that defense. And if he plays a good game, then I think everyone will kind of rally around that and feed off that. And hopefully the Rhinos can get off on the right foot in front of their home crowd.
Yeah, no doubt. It's going to be a very interesting game. I'm not sure which way it's going to go. But it's going to be important. It's an extremely important game for both teams. Obviously, Rhinos want to keep that momentum going. It's the home opener. They've been working really hard in the community. It should be a good crowd. It should be an exciting, entertaining match. Charleston need the win too. They haven't had a win so far, so they're going to be, going guns forward to get it. So. Interesting one to watch. I'm looking forward to that.
Well, that is one of 3 home openers that we have this weekend. The Rhinos, as I mentioned, 19th home opener in club history. The other 2 home openers, both inaugural home openers, with Oklahoma City Energy FC opening up at Pripple Stadium on Saturday night. They welcome their Sporting Kansas City stablemate, Orlando City. And this has the makings of a very interesting game indeed, because you've got the potential. Don't know if he'll be available for this one, John Kempin, because as we mentioned, he's off with the US U21s this week. But a guy that was very important to Orlando last season, and Christian Duke, could be on the opposite side. He's on loan to the Energy FC this year. And then you've got Mikey Lopez and Brian Kobe Spann, who's on loan from FC Dallas with Orlando. Those guys have both had a decent impact so far on their team, so this will be a very interesting one to watch. And you've got this whole bragging rights thing with who becomes the favored son in the House of Sport in Kansas City. We'll find out on Saturday night.
Yeah, I don't know how. That's a great build-up you've just done there, and I'm not sure how much of that will be going through their minds. Of course, for Oklahoma City, they just want the points, and I think they leapfrog or come close to Orlando if they take the points off from here.
We're recording this on Tuesday. Orlando has a game tonight.
That's right.
In Tuesday night against FC Dallas.
So depending on how that result goes,
and that could vault them back above the Galaxy before the Galaxy
That's
2
right.
before this weekend. But if they get maybe a draw against FC Dallas, if FC Dallas does what it did to Oklahoma City last week, the FC Dallas reserves, and get the victory, then you've got that opportunity for Energy FC in front of a sellout home crowd to beat the defending champion and jump above them in the standings. That would be a heck of a storyline for the next day's papers.
Yeah, of course it will. They'll be preparing hard for this game. This a future MLS club they're playing against, as you said, the champions of last season. They're the team that everyone's gunning to beat every time they play them. So you don't need any extra incentive to try and beat Orlando.
Yeah, remember when we were making the schedule this year in Oklahoma City, we can't wait for the big boys to get here. They want to see the Orlandos and the Richmonds and the guys that have that pedigree from last season. So they got what they asked for. They got them right in the first match here. It's going to be a great crowd and a great atmosphere. I know you're going to be there this week, Jake. But I think Oklahoma City has shown already this year that they have a quality side. And I think it's going to be good. They're going to be up for the home match. I know the players should be amped for it.
What's the biggest key for this game, do you think, for the Energy? Because I think the biggest thing for them is they can't get... I think the biggest thing is the opening 15 minutes. Because one, you don't want to get overawed by the occasion. You're going to have a big crowd there.
Yep.
You're going to have players that maybe aren't used to playing in that environment. And you've got an Orlando team that their game plan is to charge. First 15 minutes, try and get that early goal, try and put you on your heels. I think the biggest key here is going to be actually the front three that Oklahoma City puts out, because you want to kind of flip that. You want to put pressure on Orlando's back four. You want to limit their time and space, and you want to force them to hit the long passes instead of that short, quick passing game that Orlando traditionally likes to play.
It's a mixed bag, because if you come out and pressure them like you're saying, Orlando has the quality to beat you one-on-one and find that space. So a lot of times if you put that pressure on, they're able to take advantage and get by that man. At the same time, you want to make sure you're not slacking offensively, because if you're just sitting back and bunkering against Orlando, you're still going to get torn apart too, and you're going to have no offense going forward. So it's kind of a mixed bag. For me, I think the most important thing is having a solid back line that's really organized, because you know that Orlando's going to come at you in waves. If I'm creating a team sheet and I'm creating a game plan against Orlando, that's priority one, and then priority two again would be that pressure. But unless you have that solid back line to deal with Orlando coming at you that stays organized, then all will be for naught.
Could be a fascinating matchup between Corey Herzog, should he start for Orlando, and Gareth Evans, who we would expect as the vice captain to start for Energy FC. Two teammates on Wilmington's 2012 final team get a chance to square off, as I'm sure they did frequently in practice over in North Carolina a couple of seasons ago. Now, the other home opener we have on Saturday night is out in Sacramento. We're at Hughes Stadium, not their new location at Cal Expo, but Hughes Stadium, expecting a very, very big crowd. Potentially could be a USL Pro regular season record crowd for their home opener against the Harrisburg City Islanders. I know everyone's excited to see this. I think they've gotten the results that they've gotten over the first 5 games of the season about what you would hope to be. You're about where you want to be after that opening stretch. Now you get in front of your home fans. Now you get in front of the Tower Bridge Battalion, and you get a chance to face a Harrisburg side that plays Thursday night, then we'll play Saturday night. And they're a tough team, Harrisburg. Make no mistake about it. But there's going to be a real sense of occasion here, and I think the Republic will rise to it.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're expecting upwards of 15 or 20,000 people at the game. The team there in the front office have been working overtime, doing some fantastic promotions in the community. The community are 100% behind the team, so I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. It's a nice venue. It's a temporary venue, as you say, until they move into the new stadium, which it's being completed at the moment. I think they're in there in June. They've just sold the naming rights to it, so it's and it looks a really nice venue. It's about 8,000 seats, but this is a much bigger stadium, and it should be an exciting crowd, an exciting atmosphere. They're going to be going for it. Like you said, they've had a good start overall. It's been a good start, and they're there or thereabouts towards the top of the table. They'll be disappointed with the last result. They'll be certainly wanting to rectify that. So I think they're going to come out all guns blazing. Home opener, I think they'll be going for goals. And like you said, possibly against Harrisburg, they may have a chance to do that. They're coming off that's a tough road trip for them too. So and they're coming off the back of a loss against Dayton. So maybe maybe the time's right to face them. But it's as you say, it's a tough Harrisburg team. It's a tough test. But it's going to be a great atmosphere. We're looking forward to that.
Well, to talk a little bit more about that and to get an update on the Cal Expo development and how that's going, I got the chance to talk with owner Warren Smith of Republic FC, and that interview will be coming up just after this break. Well, we're very pleased to be joined now by Sacramento Republic FC's Warren Smith. Warren, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Good morning, Nicholas. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate your time.
Well, the big week has arrived. I mean, it's finally your inaugural home opener at Hughes Stadium. If you go back to the origin of the franchise, which was now more than a year ago, what does it mean to be at this point?
Well, I mean, obviously, this is what we have been planning for, and all of our hard work towards delivering a high-quality USL Pro product to the people of Sacramento, and I think that they have been eagerly awaiting, to understand who and what we are, and obviously we had the chance to show them a little bit of that Sac Soccer Day last year, but everyone seems to be very, very excited. Ticket sales are going exceptionally well. So we're expecting, 15,000 people inside of the park, and hopefully a good time, and hopefully we have a good outcome on the pitch as well.
It definitely, from everything that we've heard coming out of from you guys as far as the season ticket sales, the sales for this opening game of the season, it really seems as though the local community has embraced this team very quickly.
Well, very much so. In fact, I would say that I think all the sports franchises in Sacramento have been successful largely because Sacramento participates and cares. Obviously, with the history of the Kings and the River Cats and their attendance numbers, both in leading their leagues, as long as we can put a high quality product on the field, people will come. So we couldn't be happier about how much the community has embraced the whole concept of professional soccer, and frankly, also to have for us to have realized just how high quality USL Pro is, and that is a nice marriage for the people that are eager to see high quality product.
You obviously mentioned the results on the field, and I think for an expansion franchise, things have probably gone about as well as they could have with this opening stretch on the road. Now that you're getting into the home part of your schedule, it's obviously a good chance, I think, for the team to kick on and make a push for the top four space that it definitely seems as though may be within reach at the end of the season.
Well, obviously, we're very, very happy about the start of the season on the field and on the pitch, and I would say that it's not the best outcome that could have happened. Though both losses were, losses that were due to a young team, and frankly haven't been able to, create the kind of consistency that you look for quality teams. So but that's part of the growing process. That's part of Crecky's analysis, and what he's teaching these guys now is that to play at this level and beyond, you're going to have to actually be consistent day in and day out. So it's been nice to actually have some games that we competed well. We've been in every game, which is great. A couple games haven't gone our way. But I think you'll see, and hopefully what you'll see is, through the course of the season, a little bit more consistency on our end and a little bit more, a little bit the fewer mistakes that frankly cost us games in the last couple of rounds.
Well, it's been interesting you say that, because obviously there have been some slip-ups, there have been some errors, but it seems as though some of the young guys, and I'm looking particularly at guys like Max Alvarez, have really come through and stepped up in their first professional seasons for the Republic.
Yeah, well, Max is a great example. I mean, he, a local kid, came to us through our tryouts, played at Sacramento State University. Couldn't be happier to be playing at a professional level. Has some real basic skills, and he has shown that he can compete. At the same time, he missed he had a few opportunities defensively, that didn't work his way. This last match, and but it is nice to see guys like Mickey Daly. Obviously, Roro's been in your league for a while. Rodrigo Lopez. It was nice to see him get his first goal of the season. He's really turned out to be the leader of the team. We're struggling with some injuries with some of our older guys. Justin Braun is likely not going to play this week, but hopefully we'll be back the next weekend. But that's part of what's happening now is we have a young team that's kind of filling in, and that consistency is not quite there yet.
Well, what's the biggest thing you're looking forward to for Saturday's game?
Well, first of all, it's just the professional sports is all about creating memories for people and letting them enjoy the sport. So we want to for me, it's seeing 15,000 fans, with smiles on their faces, and as they leave, or are thankful for the opportunity that they had. This is about Sacramento for us. We have a wonderful town, and we think that Sacramento deserves more entertainment opportunities like this. So obviously, for us, to be able to see the fans having a good time, win or lose, no matter what, that's it. For us, obviously, what we hope financially is to lay a foundation to truly understand our costs for putting on these events, and then really start to plan and work towards our opening of Cal Expo. The nice thing about this facility that we're playing in, there's weaknesses with it. It's American football line, 65 yards wide, and it's turf. But Cal Expo will be a full pitch, natural grass turf. But this gives us a chance to open up. If we were playing at Cal Expo, we could only allow 8,000 people. So we'll be, having 7,000 additional people at this first game, which are, future ticket buyers and not fewer, but more opportunities to grow relationships with people. So we look forward to that. In the end, it'd be nice to get this first one behind us. And, as you have indicated, we've been planning for this since really December 3rd of 2012. And we're ready. We, of course, are going through our pregame planning exercises. We have a walkthrough through the facility tomorrow night. Got a practice on the field on Saturday night, on Friday night. But everything's lining up. Everything in this whole project has been lining up for us, and we couldn't be more blessed and couldn't be happier to partner with USL PRO for the Sacramento region.
Well, you mentioned Cal Expo, and yesterday on Monday you were able to unveil a naming rights deal for the stadium. Obviously, a great thing for that facility. How's the project going there? It definitely looks from the pictures that we've seen that everything's progressing really nicely.
Yeah, it is. Most of the facility is temporary in nature. So the seats are bleachers, but a little higher end bleachers that we're putting, some bucket seats on part of them on, lights, everything in order to comply with California state law. It needed to be temporary because it's state-owned property. Can be taken off property within a 30-day period. So that means it can be, put on pretty quickly. So all the foundation work, all the underground work is almost complete. Once that's complete, we'll start laying the field. And once the field's in, then the bleachers and everything else will start to come in relatively quickly. So we're right on schedule for our December 7th opening. Obviously, we would love to have been opening our season at the home pitch. But we're making the best of Hughes Stadium, and hopefully for our first 3 matches, getting more than 8,000 people in those fans so they can get ready for the Cal Expo event. We couldn't be happier with our local partner in Bonnie Plumbing. They're now called Bonnie, which is why they wanted to put their name on our facility. They're going through a rebranding effort. It's a local company that's been in existence for 36 years. They're growing. They got 160 employees. So, to associate with a very strong local brand like that is key for our long-term success.
Well, Warren, we wish you the best of luck for this Saturday night. I'm sure you're hopeful of a positive result against the City Islanders, and best of luck for the rest of the season. It's been great seeing the entertaining soccer that the Republic FC has been able to put out so far.
Well, Nicholas, thank you so much, and thanks again to the league and to everybody for their opportunity to actually be a part of USL Pro and our affiliations with Portland and San Jose have been going well, and we appreciate the relationship that we have with those franchises as well, and look forward to hopefully representing you well.
Obviously, we're expecting a terrific crowd in Sacramento. Could be a really entertaining game. A Harrisburg, a side that will come in on a road trip, but you feel as though with the attacking talent they had, they were that close against Dayton to kind of breaking out. Were denied by some very good saves by Matt Williams from getting their first goal of the season. So I think that's a team that will come out and try to entertain, as they did in their first game against the Wilmington Hammerheads. So that should be a lot of fun. Elsewhere, we've got some other interesting games on the schedule. We've got Charlotte hosting the Chicago Fire Reserves on Friday night, but then they go to play Wilmington on Saturday in the North Carolina Derby, and this could be a very entertaining game. Wilmington came out, scored 4 goals last time out against Pittsburgh. Charlotte came back and took a very impressive win against Richmond. I think there's the potential for goals in this game. I think there's potential for a lot of action, because I think both of these teams will want to try and get up and down the field quickly and really try and counter-attack the other as quickly as possible. Yeah,
Charlotte-Chicago is going to be nice because that'll be a little rematch. Obviously, they went head-to-head several times last season in some very exciting games, so looking forward to that one right off the bat. But then the matchup with Wilmington, I think it's going to be good. I think they're very similar teams right now. I'm still interested to watch a few more games, as I haven't quite got my finger on what either of those teams are going to look like this year still.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen, if that makes any sense, I've seen some of what they had to offer, but I think that I can't put my finger on or fully define what type of team either one of them are this season. There's a lot of new faces, and obviously, the coaching is consistent with Coach Steffens and Coach Irving, but there's a lot of new faces in both locations, and I haven't quite put a finger on what to expect from either of those sides this year.
I think that's a fair assessment, and especially when you've got the guys that are coming in on loan for Wilmington. I mean, obviously, Quillen Roberts has done a very good job in goal so far. Daniel Lovitz really performed well against Pittsburgh, but you've got the new faces that have come into Charlotte as well, Zach Boggs, who is going to be very influential. Wells Thompson, same deal. So you've got all of these new pieces, but they're going to be integral pieces, and we're going to see in the next 2, 3, 4 games how these sides are going to meld, what sort of teams they're going to be by the time we get to the beginning, maybe the middle of May.
Agreed.
Yeah, I was very impressed with Charlotte in the off-season, the caliber of the player they're bringing in. So I said before the season started, I think they're certainly one to watch, and I think they're starting to show those signs now as a pretty strong, cohesive unit. Very impressed with Wilmington again at Pittsburgh. Tough place to go, and they looked very organised. Coach Irving is, it's a great coach. Done fantastic with the team. They look solid, entertaining, attacking well, kept a good shape. So I think that'll be a very good match.
Now Saturday night, Charleston, we mentioned they're going to Rochester on Sunday for their home opener, but they also stop in and face Pittsburgh at Highmark Stadium on Saturday evening. As we mentioned earlier, these are 2 of the 3 teams that have not yet taken a victory. I know it's too early in the season to say this is a must-win for either team, but it would be a big boost in confidence for one of these teams to get all 3 points out of this game, and it would definitely be a bit of a deflator for the team that comes out on the wrong end of the result.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you want to come in, and both these teams have had a few disappointing results so far, so you want to come in and try to get 3 points here. So, both of these teams are both in that position where they really need a win. They've had some disappointing results, and things haven't quite gotten their way. But I agree with you. I think it's almost a situation where whatever team doesn't get the 3 points is continued to be really disappointed, and it's definitely a slow, slumping kind of start for them.
And as we've seen in the past, you can recover from slow starts.
Yep.
But if you want to be a contender for a top 4 place, maybe a regular season title, you can't afford this kind of start, because you look at it already, and Charleston is 7 points behind, 7 points behind the Galaxy 2 as we stand right now. Pittsburgh is 8 points behind, and it doesn't sound like much. It only sounds like 3 wins, but grabbing 3 wins over a course of the season, it's harder than it's harder than it sounds on paper. And the team that wins this, they'll still have a realistic chance, get on a run, get on a hot streak, put 3, 4, 5 results together in a row, and suddenly you're up in that top 3 and you're contending. The team that loses this, suddenly you've lost even more ground on those teams at the top, and that regular season championship seems a long, long way away.
Yeah, you've got to stay with the pack. You can't lose sight of them. As you said, it's very difficult to play catch up as everyone's improving per week. I'd lean toward. I think Pittsburgh are going to do it this time. Both strong teams, both strong overall in the shape and the aggression and the way they're playing. I mean, it could go either way, but I think the amount of goals that Pittsburgh have been scoring, the firepower they've got, and I think Charleston's not scoring as many. I can just see them. I think they might edge this one finally, which would be good for Justin. He can
definitely be a boost.
Stop getting so many grey hairs.
Not that he has many hairs in the first place, but it'd be a nice boost for the Steel Army at home as well in their second home game. Now, the other game this weekend, Sunday afternoon, we've got the doubleheader with Rochester and Charleston at 4:05. Then at 4 o'clock Pacific time, the Orange County Blues host the LA Galaxy 2 for the first time this season. Blues have gone into StubHub Center Track Stadium twice. They've fallen twice. Can they flip things around here and gain a little bit of revenge on the Galaxy 2? Because if they can put together a 90-minute performance, you feel as though they could. They just haven't quite been able to do that against LA so far.
Yeah, we talked about Orange County a little bit before, and they came out and played so well in the first half against LA the other day, and I was personally very encouraged by what I saw from them. In the second half, they wilted a little bit, and it wasn't the same team. So they showed a lot of the elements that I've been waiting to see, because this is a team that before the season I was quite excited about. I liked a lot of the pieces they had in place. I thought they got to a good place where they were last year. They obviously lost some players, but they brought back a lot of guys, too, that were integral to the success. So to come out, and I think that first half they really showed what they were capable of, and they fell off a bit. So I'm still looking for them to hit their stride, because I do think that they are a quality side, and they've shown that with a win this year, which was quite impressive. So for me to come out, I think this is an important game for them, because they have the quality, they've shown it, but they haven't shown it consistently for 90 minutes in every game. So this is big for them.
As far as this weekend's action, I know we're all excited. You're off to Oklahoma City, Jake.
I get to stay put finally.
You get to stay home this weekend. You get to stay home this weekend with me. But who are you looking to in that Oklahoma City?
Yeah, it's going to be the home opener, exciting game as we mentioned before. But you got Orlando coming in who are playing some great football and scoring lots of goals. So I'm keen to see how the back four, I think in particular Kempin, if he plays, is going to have his hands full. I'd like to see how he handles the attacking prowess of Orlando City, including Kevin Ellis, the young lad that they've got in as a defender on loan now from Sporting KC. Probably go straight in the side, see how he handles that. Big test for the whole back four and for Kempin. But equally important, Kyle Grieg up front. See how the big man, he's been scoring the goals. He's got to get at the back four there. But you got Herzog, Chin. You got some great attacking players for Orlando, and followed up with a very attacking midfield. Looking forward to seeing how those boys get on.
How about you, David? Who are you looking at this weekend?
For me, I know we were just talking about Orange County, but I'm going to go with a former Orange County player in Rodrigo Lopez for Sacramento. We talked about how big of a weekend it is for Sacramento, home opener. There's going to be a ton of fans there. Rodrigo Lopez is shown to be the guy that makes things tick so far this season for Sacramento, and he's instrumental, I think, for their offensive success. So for him going into the home opener, I think he's really going to relish this opportunity, and when the spotlight shines on him, we'll see if he can step into it.
For me, I'm looking at Rochester, and I'm looking at going back to what I said earlier about Kyle Hoffer. There's obviously Charleston, their squad. They have a couple of very good big men. They have Javier Cordovez, the Cuban immigrant, and they also have Mamadou Diouf on loan from Charleston. Hoffer is probably going to get matched up with one of those two guys, depending on who starts. I would think they'll probably go with one of those guys and Dane Kelly in attack. And Hoffer is going to have to try and contain those guys, limit the touches that they get, try and win possession in the air, clear possession well so that he can take pressure off whoever starts in goal, whether it's McCarthy or whether it's... Or whether it's Louis Sofner on loan from the Revolution. So that's the guy I'm looking at this weekend to kind of put in a big performance, help the Rhinos win their home opener. Well, that's all for this week. We hope you'll join us again this time next week. We hope you'll follow us on social media throughout the weekend as we keep an eye on all of the action. You can follow us on Twitter at USL PRO. You can find our Facebook, Google+, and Instagram pages. And obviously, if you'd like to hit the subscribe button to our YouTube channel, you can come here. We'll have playlists for each week of action throughout the season. Jake, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and good luck to all the teams this week.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, producer Ian, for putting all of this together. And thank you for listening. We hope you'll join us again this time next week. Bye for now.